Today I'm going to show you the second half of section 9.7. The homework that goes with this is the worksheet for 9.7. These are solving by using the square root method, but we'll have to do a little more complicated reducing of the square roots. And we did the reducing of the square roots a couple days ago on the square root worksheet, the reducing radical worksheet. So this is putting the two things together. All right, so on this first page, I gave you a couple easier ones like we practiced yesterday when we first tried this. All right, so let's do this first one. X squared equals negative 36. So remember, you've got your x squared by itself. You can go ahead and start with your square root on both sides. The square root and the square cancel. X equals, and remember what you're going to write right away, right now, every time, plus, minus. Underneath the square root, we had a negative 36. Remember, that needs to break apart into two pieces. Square root of negative 1 and the square root of 36. I'll put this up here for you again. And don't forget some of our first few perfect squares. Square root of negative 1 is your I term. 36 comes from 6. And we're going to flip this around so it's written the correct way. Plus or minus 6i. Number 2, 4x squared equals 25. We need to get rid of the 4. Remember, hiding in there is a times sign. So the first thing we're going to do is get rid of the 4. Divide by 4 on both sides. X squared equals 25 over 4. Leave that as a fraction. Don't reduce, because both 25 and 4 are on your perfect square list. Square root, cancel, cancel, x equals, every time right now, plus and minus, and then 25 comes from 5, 4 comes from 2. And number 3 is one where we had the parenthesis. Parenthesis, x minus 5 squared equals 16. We're going to do our big square root, left side, right side. Cancel, cancel. Remember, you're left with what's underneath. X minus 5 equals, right now, every time, plus and minus. 16 is on your perfect square list. That comes from 4. Now we have to move the 5. Remember, we don't want x minus 5. We need x equals. So we have to move that 5. Plus 5, plus 5. Put it in front of your plus or minus sign. X cancel equals 5 plus or minus 4. Now if you can remember this from yesterday, this is the exact same question from yesterday. Cover up and do one piece at a time. 5 plus 4 is 9, and then 5 minus 4 is 1. So your two solutions for that one are 9 and 1. Okay, now the next few that we're going to look at are numbers that are not on our perfect squared list, so we're going to have to break them apart. I'm going to give you some perfect squares again over here. And we'll be using numbers off of that list. All right, number 1, x squared equals 20. Square root, both sides. Cancel, cancel, x equals, plus, minus. That's all the farther we can go right now. 20 is not on our perfect square list, which means we need to break it apart. This is what we worked on a few days ago on our reducing radical worksheet. Think about the numbers that multiply to give you 20, and you want to pick a number that is on our perfect square list. It doesn't do you any good to pick 10 times 2 because 10 and 2 are not on that list. We need to pick 5 and 4 because 4 is on the list. So we're going to break apart 20, square root of 5, square root of 4, and the one that is doable is the square root of 4. 4 comes from 2. So x equals plus and minus. The piece that's doable comes first. Square root of 4 is 2. The piece that you cannot reduce will always sit in the back. So plus and minus 2 root 5 is how that answer is going to look. Let's try number 2. Parenthesis x plus 1 squared equals 12. Square root, cancel, cancel. Drop down the x plus 1 equals plus minus. Okay, stop there. Think about your numbers that multiply to give you 12. 12's not on your list, so you can't just do 12. So think about your numbers. 6 times 2, 3 times 4. Which set do we need to use? Yes, we need to use 3 times 4 because 4 is the only number that's on our perfect square list. So we'll break this one into pieces. Square root of 3, square root of 4. X plus 1 equals plus minus. Now remember, the one that you can do is going to come first. Square root of 4 comes from 2. The square root of 3 you cannot do. Put that in the back. Now you have one last thing that you need to do to finish this. The left side right now says x plus 1. I don't want that plus 1 there. I have to move that to the other side. So we're going to do a subtract. And remember, if you do something on the left, you have to do it on the right. X cancel equals, now remember, this, what comes next is the subtract 1. We want that to sit first. Then you're going to put your plus and minus 2 root 3. These are not like terms. You cannot do negative 1 plus 2 because the 2 square root of 3 is considered one whole term. So this is actually finished. You cannot go any farther than that. Your solution is x equals negative 1 plus or minus 2 root 3. 2 more. 2 more on this page, 1 on the next page. Parenthesis, x plus 2 squared equals 18. We can go ahead and square root, cancel, cancel, drop down x plus 2 equals plus minus. Now think about those numbers that multiply to give you 18. 6 times 3, 9 times 2. Which one of those sets has a perfect square in it? You want to pick 9 times 2. 9 is on your list. X plus 2 equals plus minus. The square root of 9 comes from 3. Drop down the square root of 2. All right, are we finished? No, we're not. Good. We have to move the plus 2. I don't want this x plus 2. I want just x. So we have to do the opposite. So subtract 2. Remember to put your subtract 2 right in front of the plus or minus sign. X, cancel the 2's, equals. Now put your subtract 2 plus or minus 3 root 2. Now this one looks exactly like the last answer. You cannot go any farther with this. Negative 2 plus or minus 3 root 2. Cannot go any farther. Done. Number 4. X plus 3 squared equals negative 20. Square root. Cancel, cancel. Drop down x plus 3 equals plus minus. All right, now we need to break apart that negative 20. You've got a negative sign, so remember this part. Square root of negative 1 equals what? I. Good. All right, so when we do negative 20, we're actually going to have 3 parts. Negative 1. Now, tell me those 2 numbers that you want for 20. Are you going to pick 10 times 2, or are you going to pick 4 times 5? Yes, 4 times 5, because 4 is the number on your list. So we can reduce 2 of these things. The square root of negative 1 is I. The square root of 4 comes from 2. Drop down the square root of 5. All right, on the right-hand side, we're going to switch this around so it's written in the correct order. X plus 3 equals plus minus 2i. Instead of I2, it's always 2i, square root of 5. And now we can do the last step. Do you want it to say x plus 3 equals? No, we want it to say x equals. You need to move the plus 3. Opposite of plus, minus. Subtract 3 on one side, subtract on the other. Drop down your x, cancel your 3's, equals. Now remember, the negative 3 comes first, then the plus and minus things. Plus and minus 2i root 5. So that whole big string is your answer. Negative 3 plus or minus 2i root 5. Okay, last one. X minus 1 squared equals 24. Square root, square root. Cancel, cancel. Drop down x minus 1 equals plus, minus. Think about all those numbers that multiply together to give you 24. You've got lots of choices. 12 times 2, 8 times 3, 6 times 4. Which set do we have to use? Yeah, 6 times 4 is the only number that's a perfect square. So we're going to do square root 6, square root 4. X minus 1 equals plus, minus. How many of you are remembering every time to write your plus minus sign? Square root of 4 is the doable piece. Write that number first. 2. Radical sign goes in the back. 6. And now you have to do one more thing. Remember what that is? Okay, hopefully you're remembering. Plus 1, both sides. Drop down your x. Cancel, equals 1. Now in the back, plus, minus 2 root 6. And remember, you can't go any farther. You can't tell me 1 plus 2 and put the answer as 3 root 6. Don't do that. Finished. Okay, so your practice worksheet for today is worksheet 9.7 that does all the things with the square rooting. Okay, good luck and see you next time.